What's up, everybody? It's your top headlines in less than 10 minutes, brought only to you by iNPLACENEWS right here on YouTube. Well, it's February 5th, 2008. It's Super Tuesday. If you're in one of those primary or caucus states that's voting today, go out and get counted. Please stand up and make our democracy work, won't you? I did. So did Hillary Clinton. She showed up with her husband Billy in Chappaqua to cast her vote in New York's primary. New York is one of 24 states that will weigh in during the biggest presidential primary day in the nation's history, known as Super Tuesday. I'm guessing she voted for Obama. Millions of Americans living overseas got a chance to head to the polls early and online to vote in Super Tuesday contests.
Hours before any polls were open in the United States, Super Tuesday had already arrived for Americans living abroad. In Jakarta, Indonesia, voting was allowed right after midnight. Democratic presidential candidate Barack Obama had lived in Indonesia for several years as a child, and several voters were wearing Obama T-shirts Tuesday morning. Some were just hoping for a change.
Well, I obviously hope the Democrats win, and then whoever is there hopefully will be a change for America's image in the world living overseas. I think that's the most important thing. And
personally, from a young voter's point of view, I think that I've seen a lot in the government today as being more towards the older generation and not looking towards our generation and our views and our stuff.
In Tokyo, it was a similar scene. Cameras flashed as voters filled out their ballots. Many feel, no matter where they are in the world, they feel a responsibility to take part in the election process.
I should hope that I am able to vote. However, whether I do it here or whether I do it in the States. But yes, it's my responsibility to vote.
Just because I live overseas, I still care very much about what happens in Ohio and also, the United States. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Some American expatriates were also able to vote online, despite some fears that internet ballots were vulnerable to tampering. About 6 million Americans living overseas are eligible to vote, but only a fraction have done so in the past. Rita Foley, The Associated Press.
Now on to crime. Authorities in Aruba say a secretly taped interview with a Dutch student and on-again, off-again, now on-again suspect Joran van der Sloot could be admitted in court in the case of missing teenager Natalie Holloway.
The chief prosecutor in Aruba says a series of hidden camera videotapes made of Joran van der Sloot will probably be admitted as evidence into the case of missing American teenager Natalie Holloway. The video was broadcast over the weekend on Dutch television and has brought new attention to the investigation into what happened the night the 18-year-old disappeared after a night of partying on the island. Van der Sloot has consistently said he was with Holloway the night she disappeared, but has denied involvement in her disappearance. But in the videos, he appears to admit otherwise. In them, Van der Sloot says he and Holloway had been drinking and went to the beach to have sex, but at some point Holloway began shaking and then became unresponsive. Van der Sloot claims he thought Holloway died, so he called a friend who took Holloway's body and dumped it in the ocean. The tapes were made in a Range Rover that had been rigged with secret cameras by a Dutch crime reporter. Aruba's prosecutor says since the tapes were made by a private citizen, they will be admissible in court. Last week, Van der Sloot said he was lying in the taped conversations and denied again he had anything to do with Holloway's disappearance. He and 2 others were initially arrested in the case, but prosecutors dismissed the case for lack of evidence. Brian Thomas, The Associated Press.
The tapes were played last night on a 2020 special, and the kid looks guilty of something. You just had to open your mouth, didn't you, Joran? Well, maybe we should throw old van der Sloot in jail for a few decades, let him get his story straight, because now he's saying he was lying during the secret taped confession. Yeah. So, a newscast wouldn't be complete without a little news of Britney, right? So, a court commissioner says Britney Spears' father and an attorney will be in charge of the pop star's welfare at least until February 14th. The commission also appointed a physician to evaluate her competence to make decisions. She's trying to contest the ruling because, she's made such sound and responsible decisions in the past.
Britney Spears' father, James Spears, will continue to serve as temporary conservator over the troubled pop star's affairs. A Los Angeles court ruled Monday to extend the conservatorship order until February 14th. The original court decision gave James Spears permission to take over the affairs of his daughter, who remains under medical care at UCLA's psychiatric hospital. Those powers were granted when the court ruled that Britney Spears could not care for herself or handle her own affairs. There was also a court appearance Monday by Adam Streisand, who said he had been asked by Britney Spears to represent her in the matter. He told the court that Britney doesn't want her father in charge of her welfare, but the court denied the request for Streisand to enter the case on Spears' behalf. The court also extended a restraining order against Sam LiTE and ordered Britney Spears to have no contact with her sometime manager.
The restraining order against Mr. LiTE has apparently not been served. It's being slightly revised, and attempts will be made to serve him in the near future, apparently.
The court is also appointing a physician to evaluate Britney Spears' ability to make decisions on her own behalf. Steve Flutie, The Associated Press, Los Angeles.
And finally, in sports today, the New York Giants had a huge ticker tape parade in Lower Manhattan today, celebrating their championship win over the previously unbeaten New England Patriots. We'll bring you footage of that as soon as we can afford it. Don't forget to go to iNPLACENEWS.com and download the IPN Player plugin so you can check us out without having to go through a web browser. We stream all day, and you can get the latest headlines right there on your desktop. Now let's check out an AP News Minute. Thanks for joining us.
This is AP News Minute. Super Tuesday is here, and voting already has begun in some of the 24 states that have contests on the largest presidential primary day in the nation's history. Polls show Senator John McCain should have a big day on the Republican side, but the Democratic race appears to be a dead heat, with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama running neck and neck. Hours before any polls were open in the U.S., Super Tuesday already had arrived for Americans living abroad. In Jakarta, Indonesia, a place where Barack Obama lived for some of his childhood, voting was allowed right after midnight. Americans in Tokyo also voted early. A prosecutor in Aruba says the taped interview first shown on Dutch TV with Joran van der Sloot should be admissible in court because it was recorded by a private citizen. In the tape, van der Sloot says he panicked when Natalie Holloway began shaking and collapsed while they were kissing. He then says he had a friend dump the American girl's body in the ocean. Van der Sloot now says he was lying during the interview. New York will honor its Giants today with a ticker tape parade through Lower Manhattan. The football team pulled off one of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history by knocking off the previously undefeated New England Patriots on Sunday. John Belmont, The Associated Press, with AP News Minute.
This is Paul Simon. Today in America, there are millions of children with no access to essential health care. The Children's Health Fund provides mobile medical clinics to meet this crisis. Help us bring more mobile clinics to children in need by visiting childrenshealthfund.org.